One of the most precious things to a pilot is their logbook, right? You'll do almost anything to protect your logbooks and entry because that's your life. That's your flight life, right? And it's so important, especially if you're going to be a professional pilot or even just to prove your currency to the FAA. So I started out when I was flying back in 77 with a simple logbook. Awesome. Had my flights going around cross countries and notes, which was really cool. Right. Then I went to a larger one, the senior pilot playbook. I love that. So that was good. So I logged flights in there back and forth, tons of flights, right? Visiting 900 airports over my career, flying 400 aircraft. Then I kept on going, right? I have notes in there. I've got all sorts of things. I've got my endorsements in the back, all these things. Kept on going. Then I went to my fifth one. And I went, wow, this is really cool. I've got this. And I went, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way. So what I ended up doing is starting to do Excel spreadsheets. So I started putting all my logbook entries in Excel spreadsheets, which was awesome. It was cool. Had one for every year. Had to build my own to come up with it. And then I discovered electronic flight logbooks. And the one that I found that really was the best is LogTen Pro. So I said, okay, great. Now I've got this really cool electronic logbook. And I picked the LogTen Pro because I wanted it on my iPhone, I wanted it on my iPad, and I also wanted the desktop version because I've gotten the Mac and it works great. I like having it in all three places. So I can do edits, etc. Whenever I am, they all sync. So it works out really well. And then I reached out to Coradine System and said, hey, I've got at least, 5,000 hours in spreadsheets. They have a way to load them up through one of their tools. And I tried that, and my logbook was rather complex. I reached out to Coradine, and they actually helped me, which was awesome. One of the things I just love about this, besides the fact that I've got it in multiple locations, right? Once it syncs and it's in the cloud, everything's kind of backed up. And I also do my own backups on my own, even though Coradine Systems within their product has a backup mechanism that's very good. I also just export mine and keep mine just because I'm just, it's my logbook. It's my life. So went through here, it works really well. If on the iPad where I use it primarily, sometimes I'll use it on my iPhone. Sometimes if I haven't entered, I might come to the Mac, but primary, it's my iPad. It works so nice to be able to do this. And I have also come up with these really cool things called smart groups, which is really, really nice. So on these, I can even say, okay, in particular for each particular type of aircraft I want, or I can say last 12 months where I've flown. And it also gives me a breakdown of what I've done. It also, which is really cool, is it has this show map feature. So it can actually give me a graphical representation of where I've been flying recently, which is pretty cool. Or I can go back to the last, here. It doesn't have all the destinations I've flown into because I haven't loaded all my detail back to 77, but it does show that, which is really cool. So that's for the last 4 or 5 years. So in through here, so it's got the capability to do this. If I come here and I do logbook, this is my logbook. So simple. Like we just flew down to Monterey. So I'll show you that log. So here's that log. We didn't put in the time yet. So I can do a lot of things. I can record all the hobs in and hobs out time if I want to be able to do that, which is kind of cool for some aircraft. I can come here and then Tigre said, I think we flew 3 hours. So it's got that. It can say whether it's night, actual instruments. We really didn't have very many instruments. There's about 3/10 about it coming down through here. And then shows me the crew, and I can put Tigre in here. When I was teaching him to fly, now we're co-captains. We have that night takeoffs, night landings, and you can configure any one of these fields, which is really cool. Because also things I've configured down here is remarks, fuel added, fuel aboard, fuel burn, and fuel remaining. Works perfect if you want to keep track of all the fuel usage on a flight, which is really cool. And I can come up through here, and this is the aircraft. I even got the picture, right? So I can add photo descriptions for all the planes I've flown. And there's quite a few down here that I've flown over time. There are some of them. And then to do the next leg, I say, hey, next leg, boom, next leg. So later on today, we're going to be coming in here. We're going to use that same plane. We're going to go from Monterey, and we're going to go to Mexicali. So I go MMML, or I can search for it. Oops, put one too many in there. MMML. Oops, okay. You know why? Because I haven't been to Mexicali in this sequence, so now I have to go to ICAO. So I go to ICAO and I put in ML. That's Mexicali. Got it. So then I can record all the time when I leave or not. Then we get to go to our next flight. It's so easy to do it. I can either come over here and hit plus, or I'll just come over here and go here next leg. So the next leg, which is going to be today, right? We've got that from Monterey, and now we're going to go to Mexicali, which it already has in here as one of my fields for airports. If I didn't, I could search, and I could search mine, the ones I've done, ICAO, IATA, or all. So we're going to Mexicali. So it's got that. So now it has that information. Then I'll show you as if we were going to take off. It's so easy. When we're ready to take off, right, I can actually put the times in here so I know the exact times. And for certain logs, like the 135, some 121s, and even for 91, we keep track of that. I can put down my UTC time off and on. And then, of course, you have the block time. That's from the time you start the engine, start moving until you stop. And then in through there, we'll put the time in here. So it's so nice to be able to do that. And then I can keep track. I can look at all the aircraft I've flown, right? So it's got a nice listing of some of the aircraft I've flown over time. There's a few more, but I just haven't entered them all in here yet. So it's really cool to be able to do it. I want to know what aircraft types I've flown, right? Here's some of the aircraft types that I've flown over time. Reports. I can come here and do reports, right? So a lot of different reports I can do. I can say, okay, for experience, let's see what kind of reports. Let's say you're doing even an ATPL Transport Canada qualification report, right? I can configure it, tell the time period I want, and I generate it. And in just a few seconds, you got your report. You can save it as a PDF, etc. So it works out really well to be able to do it. If you want duty times graphs, you want to say, hey, let's look at the graphs. Let's do flights by month. See what was a busy month. So you can come here and configure report. Let's go and generate that. Right there, bingo. That shows that one of those months back in March 2016 was a rather busy flight month. I flew for everywhere it seemed that month. So it has all that information, shows the number of flights by month. And we fly a lot. So Tigre and I fly between 550 and 600 hours a year in the last few years. So it makes it out real well. Hey, I want to know what places I've been to. It's really cool, right? Yeah, as I mentioned, you got all these places that you've been to, all the airports that I've flown around. Here's a good number of them in here. I haven't entered all of them. Now what I'm going to do is go back historically and get some of my first logbooks and enter that data. Or there are companies that will take your logbooks and import them for you. So it's a really cool capability. The other thing that's really neat is I can search for where I went. I put comments. I can put who I was with. Everything that's useful to be able to do it. Then there's a whole bunch of things. I've got great tutorials and so forth that work. And then got my profile store, and you can load your certificates. I still do a lot of my certificates on paper and keep them and scan them. I always scan them into my computer. So when I get an endorsement, I'll put it in one of my paper logbooks, but I'll also scan it. It's a good thing to do, and I keep it in the cloud just for backup. And then I can go through and it'll tell me when I got my ratings, when things are due, etc. What trips on, if you want to do trips. Again, we talked about reports, and then there's the backups. See the backups, really super easy to do backups to get those done. So that's the wonderful thing about doing this. Using LogTen Pro, it works great for us. We've been using it, been extremely happy with it. You probably will too. If you got any questions, drop us a line at Personal Wings. We've got our channels here at TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and we'll try to answer them. And of course, then if you're going to go purchase product and get more support, feel free to get a hold of Coradine Systems, the makers of LogTen Pro. Thanks for watching. Rich Pickett with Personal Wings, and I hope you enjoyed that, and look forward to talking to you in some other videos.